Are you quick to step back from a situation and see where you were wrong, even if there was wrong, the other person was wrong? Are you able to do that uh, fairly well? Or do you do what my dad used to say, ride your version of the story until the bus out? You go 10 toes down that they were wrong and you were right. Which one are you? That is the principle of the justice code we explore today in Proverbs 16:25, which reads that there is a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are ways, are the ways of death. So this principle, it reminds me of one particular case that I had where my client was a kept woman, and the father of her child was creating disruption in her life that she was no longer willing to live with because he was exhibiting more and more control over her. And it finally got to the place where her comfort in the situation was no longer worth the amount of control that he was exercising over her life and making her miserable. And in preparing for her trial, I offered the following advice: put your dirt out there first. Tell the judge that this was a kept woman arrangement. You were the beautiful paramour that was willing to have his child and give him access to your house. And in your process of living, learning, and growing, you realize that this was not the ideal lifestyle for you. And so your differences erupted when you began to establish boundaries with your child's father. Put your dirt out there first. And the reason for this counsel, the reason for this advice, and the reason why it worked for my client was because it takes two to tango. Very rarely are there situations where there's 100% blame to be placed on one side. There's almost always contributing factors on both sides. And because we are prideful, our mortal mind, it will protect our view that we are right and the other person is wrong. And it will blind us to seeing our own shortcomings. It will blind us to seeing the opportunities that we have to do better, to avoid these types of situations again. And many people walk around with this type of blindness because of pride. You think that you're right because you focus so much on what everybody else does wrong. And what many people don't understand about justice and going in front of a judge is that the more credible witness is the person who leads with the mistake that they made, the person who acknowledges what they could have done differently, the person who is willing to extend an olive branch to have a conversation rather than jumping to conclusions and turning it into a whole street fight. That is the testimony or the witness that has more credibility because of the principle of Proverbs 16:25. We all think we're right. We always want to be right. I don't think I've ever met someone who takes pride and delight in ever being wrong. It rubs our pride wrong. It rubs our flesh wrong. We could probably go back. We could probably really benefit from going back to the way that the old folks used to teach in church. They used to always talk about flesh. Flesh hates being wrong. Flesh hates being wrong. Flesh hates apologizing. Flesh hates admitting what it contributed to the situation. Spirit is the exact opposite. To be a child of truth, to be a child of the king, to be a child who is circumspect in your walk, in your life, in your journey, is to recognize where flesh is operating and where you need to admit wrong, because flesh will always lead you to destruction. Flesh is always going to lead you to a path where you are destroyed, your reputation is destroyed, your credibility is destroyed, and you're looking like boo boo the fool because you were not willing to put your dirt out there first in your testimony. That's how it works in the civil courts. That's how it works in the spirit. This is the reason why, whenever the enemy is accusing you before the Father, understand this. The spirit world is a extremely legal system. The spirits, the demons, Hashatan, Satan himself, they know the law. And they are constantly looking for evidence against you that you have violated it so that you can be accused before the Father. Because they're always seeking to trip you up on some kind of punishment or penalty. And the penalty for sin is always death. They know this. If the demon world wants you to die, then the demon world wants to get evidence and build a file on you to bring a case before the Father so that the penalty of death is issued against you. We have to understand this, because when the enemy accuses you, know that he has evidence against you. So guess what you do? You throw yourself on the mercy of the court and you admit wrongdoing and you seek mercy from the king. This is the reason why not admitting your fault, not washing your hands with repentance, not seeing your contribution to a situation and seeking the Father's mercy will get you destroyed. Because there's another proverb that speaks to this issue. It says that a man that seeks to conceal his wrong shall not prosper, but he who repents will find favor. This is very, very important for us to realize, for us to know whether we're deciding a dispute, whether we're in the middle or the party of a dispute. Check yourself first and see if there be any wrong doing on your part that contributed to it. What could you have done differently? What can you apologize for? How can you make things right? Even if the other side never admits wrong. I pray this blesses and encourages you, and I look forward to seeing you for the next day of the challenge.